Hello everyone and welcome back to another video in the Spring Framework series. Today we will explore Spring Security and we will see how we can add a stateful authentication mechanism to our Spring application using Spring Security. Spring Security is a comprehensive security framework for Java applications. It provides authentication, authorization, and other security features to protect applications from common threats. It also provides integration with other libraries to simplify its usage. Let's see an example of how we can provide a stateful authentication mechanism to our Spring application. And let's take the same project from last video. In our example, we created last time a book controller and added a method to retrieve a list of books using a GET request. Now we want to add a login page to only allow defined users to retrieve that list of books. However, we will not create a new controller for login, but we will do this in an easy way, which is using Spring MVC. This is a design pattern used for structuring applications, and it stands for Model View Controller. The model represents the data and the business logic for which entities and services are responsible. View represents the presentation layer and what the user sees. Those views are typically JSP files, time-leaf templates, or other templating engines that render the HTML. And lastly, the controller manages the flow of the application and handles user requests. So those are the controller classes that we have seen in previous examples and annotated with controller or REST controller annotations. Okay, now before we go ahead with creating our MVC config class, let's add those two dependencies to our project. We need the Spring Boot Starter Security dependency that adds Spring Security to our Spring Boot application. And we need the dependency Spring Boot Starter Time-Leaf, which is a modern server-side Java template engine for web and standalone environments. So with this dependency, we add support for using Time-Leaf as the templating engine in our Spring Boot application. Now we can define an MVC config class for our example. We annotate it with configuration annotation, and this class will implement Web MVC configurer interface that allows us to customize Spring MVC configuration. Now we override the method addViewControllers from Web MVC configurer. This can be used to define simple request to view mappings without the need for controllers. And let's define the views here with their controllers. The first one would be the home page, and we will create the home template for it. And the second one is the login page. We will also create a view for books to retrieve the list of books in a page. So here in Resources Templates, I added three simple time-leaf templates. The first one is the home template that will only welcome the user and provide a link to view the book list, which is retrieved from the books endpoint. The second one is the login page that accepts a username and password with the sign-in button. And of course, we need the books template in which we have a table to present the ID, title, and author of each book in the list. And to be able to present the list, let's modify the book controller to retrieve this list in the books time-leaf template. We change the type of the method getAllBooks to be model and view, since we will create an object of model and view, which is a container for both the model and the view in the MVC pattern. The constructor of model and view takes a string argument, which is the name of the view. In this case, books refers to the view template books.html. After that, we add the book list to the model using the method addObject. This takes two parameters. The first one is the name of the attributes, which is books, and the second one is the value, which will be the list of books that we retrieve using the book service. Then it returns the model and view object. Now this tells Spring to render the view named books and populate the model with the attribute named books, which contains the list of books. Now as a last step, we need to enable Spring Security to allow users to retrieve the book list only after a successful login. So let's create a web security config class. Here I will add configuration annotation, and we also need to add enable web security annotation to enable Spring Security's web security support and provide the Spring Security configuration. In this class, I will create a method security filter chain, and I will declare it as a bean. So the method's return value will be registered as a bean in the Spring application context. This method configures the security filter chain for HTTP requests. And the parameter HTTP security represents the HTTP security configuration. This includes authorized HTTP requests that configures URL authorization rules. And the request matchers permit all allows access to the root and home URLs without authentication. And declaring any request authenticated will require authentication for all other URLs. And we have form login to configure form-based login. And we set here the login page URL. Permit all allows unauthenticated access to the login page. And we can also configure a logout functionality here. Now I will create a method that returns a user details service bean. This is for creating in-memory user details with a username, password, and role. Of course, you can also use a database to store users along with its usernames and passwords, but I will just make it as simple as possible for this example. User with default password encoder creates a user details object with the default password encoder. And here we set the username to user and the password to password. And we also assign the role user to the user. This will return a new in-memory user details manager with the specified user details. Now with the current setup, when Spring Boot starts, Web Security Config is instantiated, setting up the security configuration. The security filter chain method configures how HTTP requests are handled, including authorization rules and login/logout paths. And the user details service bean provides user details for authentication using in-memory storage. This altogether ensures that only authenticated users can access the specified URLs, while others are redirected to the login page. Now let's start our application. Go to localhost, and this will redirect me to the login page. Or if we go to the home page, we see that we can click the link that we provided inside the home template, and it will also redirect us to the login page. So here I will enter the username and password that we identified in the security configuration. And here you go. We are on the books page, and we can see the list of the books. Alright, that's it for this video, and in the next video we will dive into stateless authentication with JWT in Spring Security. So stay tuned.